Joel, it's good to have you back on the podcast. It's been too long.
Gil, so happy to be with you, man. It's been a while. Shoot, man, you've been avoiding me, and I've
Dude,
been getting my feelings hurt. And then you took off to Rome, and you know,
I thought you got too pretty to come on this podcast.
no, I can never get, never can I get too big for Gil Massa, man.
Ah, well,
It's this is where it all started, right here, man. With you, my man. You were my first podcast, so happy to
well,
be with you.
I love having you on, and we got some heavy hitting stuff to talk about. But we were discussing before we got started here the whole Kamala interview, right? And we were saying
Mhm.
how you know everybody's talking like it's over, right? Like Trump's already won. He's got the Latino vote. He's got the black vote. The women are starting to come around to him. But I was telling you, I get nervous when I start hearing that, right?
Mhm.
Because
Yes.
the our Republicans and our conservatives tend to choke right before the finish line.
Yes, we are chokers. In fact, there is no doubt, Gil, no doubt whatsoever that they're desperate. That
That's for
Kamala's
sure.
feeling she tried the basement approach that worked for Joe Biden, and
Yeah.
then on the interview with Brett Baer, she tried the old Mayorkas routine where she just tries to not answer the question, and it hurts them deeply. Now, with that said, what happens when a boxer has somebody against the ropes and when they're where their knees are wobbly? You need to go full throttle ahead,
Yeah.
and our side tends to let go and then play the old rope a dope. But no, you need to go for it. That's when you go for the knockout blow. You don't take the foot off the accelerator. You keep going 100%. That's what we need to do our side. No matter what happens, no matter what polls. We like to talk about how we don't like listening to polls. We ignore
Yeah.
polls, but yet we believe them. you know.
No.
So
Yes.
so,
Yeah. One
so
hundred percent.
mhm.
But people got to look at your most recent article now. Just for everybody listening that may not know you, this is Joel Maldonado. He's written a book, The Binding Oath, right, and the Mayorkas Effect, and
Mhm.
that's going to be available on Amazon and other places as well, right? And we'll set the links when we share this video. We'll put the links on there for you. But I wanted to ask you to start out. How's that going? You retired from the United States Border Patrol, a supervisory Border Patrol agent. You wrote a book. How has that journey been going so far?
It's been great, Gil. Let me tell you something, man. The writing the book was just it was fun writing the book and then getting the word out there about what's going on. But the funnest part has been the getting the elbow grease to get this thing rolling. You can't just. I mean, I'm a self publisher, so you're not. I don't have anybody doing this work for me, but that's the fun part, is talking to people like you and getting to know the Daniel McGears of the world,
Yeah.
and getting on the Awake to Truth podcast and different just all kinds of things that I love talking to people at libraries. Public libraries have invited me to talk to them. I've talked to book clubs. I've talked to patriot groups, and it's just so much fun getting to talk to those groups and telling our story, Gil. You know how you get so passionate when you talk to somebody about something, and the thing that I've been talking about the most is like they want to know why the title, the Binding Oath, and that's because it all comes down to the oath that we took that when we became federal agents, and that was to uphold the Constitution. And we are
Yes.
a constitutional republic. I know Democrats like to talk about that we are a democracy, and that
Right.
just shows their ignorance, because the follies of a democracy is what leads to a lot of the problems. And our founding fathers knew that when they created this constitutional republic. That's why everything comes down to the authority. The authority is the Constitution. All our laws are derived from the U.S. Constitution, whether you like them or not, Gil. Like, for example, a lot of people don't like the Immigration and Nationality Act, which
Hmm.
came from the U.S. Constitution, which Article 1 of the U.S. Constitution tells us that as a sovereign nation, we have the right to safeguard our borders. And that's why the INA was created. And whether this administration, they don't like the INA because it goes contrary to their the kind of people they want to bring in to so they can keep power.
Right.
And so if they don't like it, that's fine. They don't have to like it, but they better abide by it while it's the law. And they have, and if they're elected officials, they have the responsibility that has been vested upon them to uphold those laws and execute those laws. And they don't have a right to not enforce laws. Now, if they don't like them, they can change it. They can get elected. They can get people in place. They can get their people to say, "Hey, let's do away with the INA because we don't like it." But good luck with that. That's why, Gil, since they know the American people support law and order, they know that these laws, whether you like them or not, help protect our people. And we can go into detail about what immigration laws do, but let's not even go there. Let's just look at what we have now, this disorder at the border, this manufactured crisis. And why is it a manufactured crisis, Gil? I'll let you answer that. Why is it a manufactured crisis? It's simple. Because they don't enforce laws.
Exactly right. This is the greatest and deadliest taxpayer-funded illegal immigration invasion and border security breach in the history of our country. And the only reason this is happening is because this administration has decided not to enforce immigration law while pretending to have the hardest stance on border security that's ever been made. Just like they talk about that last border bill they tried to pass that they call the toughest border bill in history, when it still allowed 5,000 people to be released into the country daily. And it's only if we exceed that they'll shut the border down and make adjustments for it. But how do you just shut 5,000 people down, right? But before we get any farther, I want to address the whole Constitution issue. People have forgotten, I think, and you can tell me if you agree with me, that this document that was written by our founding fathers, they were faulty men. They personal lives, you can throw stones at them all you want. But this document was a divinely inspired document that I say no one today, right now, alive in the entire world, has the intellect to be able to contradict or do better. What do you say to that?
Well, I would say that the U.S. Constitution, like you said, it was made by men that are human beings.
Yeah.
And there are things that can be amended, and that's what the amendments are about.
But they included that just in case, right? Because they couldn't cover everything. They're not God. They didn't know everything, right? But the genius of it is the fact that it was a document that could be, based on what, on the times or whatever, be amended.
Of course. And that's why we, the people, have the right to amend it or change it, or we, the people, follow that rule. And if we, the people, don't agree with it, we, the people, have to change it. Yeah. And it's not incumbent upon the person in power to decide arbitrarily to change it and do what he wants or not do what's in that Constitution. That is not what is, and then we, the people, have the right to take him out of power. And many people talk, many Christians are say, well, we have to respect the authority. But the authority is us. We, the people, are the authority. And when those people that we put into power are not abiding by the U.S. Constitution, we, the people, have to remove them. So Christians are doing themselves a great disservice by saying, okay, well, we have to respect the authority. Well, you are the authority,
Well, that's the thing, too. And that's the issue here is that just the things that have been happening in the last 3 years, like this unconstitutional, opening of the entire borders. And the perfect example that we have gone from a constitutional, system to a system of basically executive order policy is the mere fact that Kamala Harris is actually a candidate. Never mind, forget the politics for a moment. How she became the candidate to run for the presidency Didn't that bypass literally all our voting and electoral process just to put her in that position? I mean,
Well,
no electoral votes, no primary votes. She was not elected to that position. She was simply grandfathered in.
well, the people that are screaming that Trump is a threat to democracy have completely done the most undemocratic thing, which is just
Yes.
rob somebody in there, and they were all defending about how Biden had a stable mind and all this stuff, and
Yeah.
all of a sudden, they threw him under the bus, and for the good of the people and for the good of democracy, we have to do this and that. And
Yes.
you see how those rules change for these people, and we'll see. And to get back to the Constitution, when the Constitution is not followed, which was meant for the good of the people and to safeguard our nation. Did you know, Gil, that our Constitution guarantees two things: safety for its people and commerce. Those are the two things.
Yeah.
It had two jobs, and they're ruining one of them. They're not safeguarding this nation by not abiding by the INA, which is derived from the U.S. Constitution. By not abiding by that, we're letting in all these people unvetted. We can't properly check them. Now, there's nothing wrong with legal immigration, right? We can agree with that, right?
Of course.
Now, the problem is when it's lawlessness. They're coming in, they're not being properly vetted. Maduro has already said he released all of these people, and the one rule that he had for them is, hey, get the hell out of here and go north, go to the United States. And they came here, and now we have Tren de Aragua, which is absolutely taken over and festering like a wound and ruining American society. And right now,
Venezuela is enjoying the less crime, the lowest crime rate in 30 years now, thanks to this administration's policy.
Because they successfully exported their crime, and we allowed it to happen. And that's what happens when you don't abide by the U.S. Constitution. The INA is not enforced, so people are coming in. So now there's rapes, there's murders, there's extortion, and people don't like to talk about it because it doesn't affect them yet. Right now, it's affecting the very people that are crossing illegally. 1 in 3 women are being raped that are crossing, and the children that are being brutally raped and trafficked and used. And I mean, if we can plug in, of course, J.J. Carroll and Ryan.
We're going to talk about that today, but right now, just the report came out from the federal government, right, that child trafficking is up. It's 3 times what it was before this administration went into office, right? But we knew that, right? We understood that once you open the border. Now, I want to ask you a loaded question. It may not be loaded, but many of us, including me, have made the contention that this border is 100% controlled by the cartels, and I'm using those words purposely, 100%. Yes or no?
Absolutely, and not just cartels.
Yeah,
because
when
we think of cartels, we think of drugs. So there's also. So let's not use the word cartels, which that goes without saying. The drug cartels are involved, but so is the criminal element that traffics children for the pedophiles of this country. We have, unfortunately, we have a big market for that. We have a lot of perverts.
The biggest in the world market for it, believe it or not.
Exactly. And so we're facilitating and hand delivering these poor children to these because the government has already admitted to how many? 325,000 that they don't know where they're at, or maybe it was 500,000.
Actually, yes, it's 500,000. Yeah,
that's what they're admitting to, Gil.
Yes, thank you.
So you know that number's double, probably triple.
Oh, easily.
Yes. So when you say drug cartels are in charge, they are, but so is other criminal elements like the traffickers of children, the people that the terrorist organizations. Though you got to include those. So we limit ourselves by saying drug cartels.
And thank you. And that, you're right. You're right. It's worldwide criminal organizations that now are funneling men, women, and children.
That's right.
For everything from sexual labor to just labor, sex, and even harvesting organs and everything else, everything that's on the black market that America seems to have the biggest markets for in the world, right? I mean, they have carte blanche. So let me ask you this. So
well, Gil, before you ask me that, let me
going.
just tell you that you're just talking about the criminal element. Cartels, the other criminal elements. But how about national interests, national strategic interests? Like, for example, Chinese sending military-age males, Russia sending in spies, Cuba, everyone sending their spies, even Venezuela. Everyone's sending their spies because it's wide open.
So this is what I hear. But Gil, look, obviously, this administration has protected and secured the border. Sbpa says it. DHS puts out every single day. They put out how they're protecting America, securing the border. Nothing is wrong. And we haven't had a terrorist. Everybody's complaining about getting an overt terrorist attack, but we haven't had one, Gil. So they have been effective in protecting and securing our country.
Okay, so when the terrorist attack does happen, then is that when they will admit it? Is that worth it for that? Think about that.
Obviously willing to take the chance, right? Because what do? Their idea of law enforcement is release the criminals across the country, let them rob, rape, murder, kill our citizens, and then go after them. So they don't worry about policing as regards to, to being proactive to policing. They want to just go in after the fact. But one of the points I make about that is the fact that, I don't believe that the terrorist attack is going to come that obvious to us. I believe the terrorist attack has been happening within our country, within our infrastructure, within our society already. Like you said, we've imported how many Chinese, how many, from 170 different countries, spies. Now spies don't have to even sneak in anymore. And the damage that they're doing to our infrastructure is more effective. Even social media. Right? Somehow our youth have been convinced that Hamas is the good guy, right? This terrorist, this murdering, raping, monstrous terrorist organization has become the good guy, and now Israel's the bad guy, right? Right. So I think the attack's been happening already right under our noses.
You're exactly right. And that is why the INA is so important. Because and I know, Gil, that if a visa student guy from any university, let's say Yale. They're at Yale, and they're over there, and then they get a group together, and they start protesting in defense of Hamas and burning Israeli flags and the American flag. That visa student is deportable now.
Yes, 100%.
Because he is a sycophant and he is a sympathizer of a terrorist organization. That is the INA. That is what it supports it from. But we're not doing that. We're bringing in people, and JJ talks about this, and I give kudos to this guy because he's a white dude talking about, but me and you get away with it as Hispanic. So let's just say that whole society's civilization, culture, the fabric of America is being changed. Look at Minnesota. There's areas where it's just complete, Sudanese or whatever. And then there's whole areas of Michigan, Dearborn, Michigan. It's nothing but Muslims.
Yeah.
And it used to not be that way. But of course, they're going to sympathize with Hamas. And that's why it's become like that. And then not to mention all the our elitist American hater professors that are indoctrinating. And then it starts with our children,
Right. It starts with absolutely right. And that's the thing, right? So now, right now, we are facing our next election, right? And and all this political jargon jumbo is going on out there right now. I read an article. You follow Todd Bensman, and if you don't, everybody that's listening to this should follow Todd Bensman because he has been documenting this whole immigration invasion nightmare from not only from America, but from where they're starting out, the source countries. And right now, he just reported that Mexico is holding back 400,000 illegals until after the election. So right now,
because the optics of it would be so devastating right now.
Well, right now I'm being told that, and even Ali Bradley reported earlier that this month has been the lowest month of crossings for illegal aliens on the southern border since Biden took office.
Right. Well, because it's a manufactured crisis. And when we say that, you know that the CBP One app controls the flow. I wrote an article about that.
Yeah,
that's part of it. The CBP One app. They have to leave their countries. People don't know this. In case they didn't read my article, under CBP One app, you have to leave your country of origin. So if you're a Honduran or Guatemalan, they have to see that you are north of Mexico City for you to get on that app. So they know they have to leave. And then once they get north of Mexico City, they can start getting on that app. And then they tell them this is the date that you can cross. So they have controlled the flow of illegal aliens. They're still coming. Hundreds of thousands are still pouring in, but now it's a very manufactured flow. They're controlling the flow. So the optics of all these people, and then Border Patrol agents not being able to go out and work, they don't want those optics. So they're controlling the flow. That to me is treason.
Oh, it's 100%. And that's what JJ has documented. And man, I wish you could make it to the premiere that's going to happen on the 24th here in San Diego. But here's the thing, right? So yes, on the border, on the ground, like this morning, 180 crossed in Eagle Pass. Okay, really low numbers, sure, but they're not telling you how. First of all, there is no illegal pathway for this administration whatsoever. And not only that, but every legal pathway, they have glutted. They have maxed out every legal pathway as well. So they're flying in illegals from all over the world, number one. Number two, CBP One is allowing even the ones that got deported before are being allowed to still reapply on CBP One up and come back in, like you said. And not only that, I don't know if you knew this or not, but the cartels appropriated CBP One from the beginning, and they sell VPNs, right, to where you can apply from anywhere in the world and pretend you are right outside the border, just sitting outside the border. And then when these people fly in and they report themselves to DHS, then they can just here's my application, here's my ID, here's my not ID because they throw them all away, but here's my appointment. And they let them right on in and then release them summarily. So even though the border is down to a trickle, every place else they have successfully been able to glut and I'm saying by either up from 100 to 300,000 a month that they're sneaking in that the public's not seeing anymore.
That's right. They've successfully concealed this invasion.
Yes.
And that includes from the Darien Gap and flying them straight from there into like our cities, as far in as Seattle and different places like that. So it's still happening. We're just not seeing the optics of it. So see no evil.
Exactly right. When I came back from Rome, I went through 10 separate security checks. My bags went through 3 separate security checks. I went through personally passport or boarding pass over and over and over and over again. And yet we can drive our own DHS CBP can drive a busload of illegals to the airport, and just with a little piece of paper, because we can see the mountains of IDs that they're throwing away in Mexico and all across all these other countries. So we don't really know who we're seeing and what. And when we run their fingerprints, we only get a very limited information based on the countries that are willing to give us that information to begin with. So by the time they get released, Joel, and we do perhaps get derogatory information back, they're long gone. They've already been turned over to these NGO cartels that, we're funneling billions of dollars to. And they finish the leg of the journey for the cartels, for these smuggling organizations.
Hmm. It's also an understood thing. To get back to your thing about the countries are taking it, there's entire countries taking advantage of our system of the CBP want to have. Venezuela, for example, they're making sure that
Yeah.
everybody's getting out, that their unwanteds are gone, and they're help facilitating through fraud and making money out of it. Um, uh, our money, taxpayer money, and we like a bunch of idiots are allowing this to happen,
But
and so it's mind numbing.
it is, and see, and after a while, I'll be honest with you, man. I went to Rome and I came back from Rome and I was just fed up. I mean, reporting another group come in, reporting another infraction, another violation of immigration law. It just got tiresome and exhausting, Joel. And but at the same time, I feel like we can't drop the ball right now, this close to the election. We can't stop fighting, right? And we've been sitting by helplessly and basically helplessly, right? While the top law enforcement officer in the country, Alejandro Mayorkas, has sat there with a straight face and just said, we're doing everything we can. We're undoing all the damage that Trump did before. When Kamala, when you mentioned that interview with Kamala, she mentioned Donald Trump 57 times, and her answer to everything was, well, what about Donald Trump? She got asked, well, you have had this administration for the last 3.5 years. You're promising no tips. You're promising, all these money and everything else, and you're going to solve all the problems. And you got Tampon Tim on the other side going, we can't handle another 4 years of this. And it's like, boom, really, right?
Yeah,
But yet her answer to all that was, well, Donald Trump. Donald Trump's the problem.
Well, and that's what I mentioned in our most recent article regarding Kamala Harris in the interview. Kudos to Brett Baer, who's not exactly a conservative, but he would not relent on her answering the question. Please answer one question. Just answer this question. And like you said, first she tried to blame Trump. And he, to his credit, he said, well, Trump is not in office. Yeah. You have been in office. You and your administration, Biden administration, have been in office. And then that's when she tried to blame Congress. And he goes, ma'am. And he was very respectful. He said, ma'am, it's not about Congress. This has nothing to do with Congress. It's not a law. It's executive orders that you guys undid. And put y'all's own executive orders to facilitate this stuff. And then that's when she finally kind of tried to answer the question, the question was, do you owe an apology to these women that have been murdered by illegal aliens for your policies? Do you think you or somebody from the administration owes them an apology? And then finally she says, I am sorry for their pain. Gil, that's like me slapping you right now and saying, I'm sorry for your pain.
Yeah.
She didn't apologize for her actions or her worthless policies or for not enforcing the law. She didn't apologize for that. Like you were alluding to earlier, and what you were saying is that they're allowing all this to come in, and when it happens, mea culpa. But right now they're letting all this stuff happen. But when it does happen, crimes happen, I'm sorry for your pain.
Yeah. Yeah. But it's not our fault, and we're not going to take responsibility. There used to be a time, remember when there used to be a time that you used to have to say, you know what? Even if it's not my fault, that happened on my watch.
Yeah.
Mayorkas will never say that, right? He'll never say, he even forgot the names of Rachel Morin during an interview, right? He couldn't bother to even remember her name, but to them, he's doing this great job. They're securing the border. They're handling all the fentanyl. When we see and we know, and how many of us have been sounding the alarm since the beginning? People right now, a lot of news agencies and organizations and even people on Twitter and everything else are barely catching up to what me, JJ Carroll, and others have been screaming from since day one that we said was going to happen. And this is no longer a conspiracy theory, right? We have
Mhm.
Aragua that's control that's has control centers now in 25 different states, major cities in our country, and it's gonna be and more that we don't even know about that we don't even
Exactly. It's not until they start being very forceful that we realize, oh, they're here. Like a
yeah
lot of people didn't even know they were right here in San Antonio, Texas. But
yeah
they just like Aurora, they took over a few apartment complexes. You know, that's what they do. They take over. It's like a wound that's festering. It's going to corrupt everything. And like I said, Gil, right now, the people that are affected the most are illegal aliens because they sense the rapes they happen. All this stuff happens to them first, but then it
right
happens to your card holders, your I-551s, those people, and that's why they're getting fed up with this crap. And then it happens to Hispanics. Hispanics are tired of it. That's why Hispanics and African Americans. JJ talks about this, how in African Americans in great number from Chicago are fed up with this crap.
yeah
Uh,
yeah
and and uh, and so because those are the people that it's affecting, it's these poor communities and or minorities. But once, and it's not going to stop. This festering will not stop.
no
And I hate to say this, but when rapes happen to white kids and stuff. And I don't want to sound like I'm being very divisive and stuff like that, but um, that's when the pearl clutching begins
yeah
because and it's happening. Some of these people victims have been white people, and but when meanwhile it's a rape of a child, it's a Honduran little boy or Guatemalan little boys, but these are still human beings. These are children
yeah
that have been
they're supposed to be the party, the liberal left, the party of compassion, right?
that protect the protect the most vulnerable, right?
Yeah.
But
And you
no,
watch
right now
AOC
they're
just, crying and screaming, right? But this is the party that supposedly protects women, but can't even define a woman. This is a party that's willing to allow men, right? And I find this hilarious that men are better at being women than women are today. Men have won Woman of the Year in just about every magazine, have won trophies, right, for being, making millions of dollars endorsing products, men as women, winning beauty contests, right, beating the crap out of women in a boxing ring, right, and in every other sport available. Yet this is the party of. I mean, you talk to a feminist and ask her what does it mean to be a woman now? Then, well, what does it even mean anymore? And did you watch the roast that Donald Trump did recently in that one show? I put out the video where he tells
yes.
Chuck Schumer, right? The humorless Chuck Schumer, because he was sitting there like he had swallowed, acid. And he says, "Don't worry, Chuck." He goes, "Your party is so woke that even if Kamala doesn't win, you still have a chance of being the very first female president, right? Because
Oh man, yeah, yeah,
it was
yeah.
it was savage. It was savage. But this is again, they talk about caring for the kids, yet 500,000. And again, like you said, it's a million plus 2 million children that have been brought in here specifically to be sold, to be raped, to be abused. But because they're not just white kids, they're not just American citizens. There are all these ones that we allowed to come in. Supposedly, the moment they get past the border patrol, they get to experience the American dream. And yet, at the same time, they're the same people that tell us, our population can't experience the American dream. Well, that's because they're pricing everybody out of it.
Yeah, and Gil, let me back up on. I don't want your listeners or anybody to think that I'm race baiting or that I'm
No,
being
no, 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 no.
or that I'm dividing the races. Here's what I mean by this: that right now these illegal aliens haven't come into these communities. They're not going into gated communities and but
Yeah,
once it does affect people, that's what I mean is that middle America doesn't realize how bad it is yet.
exactly.
So and many people, for example, border states know full. I'll give you an example. Even here in Texas, in Kerrville, Texas, where I'm from, that's kind of more in the interior, and it's the Texas Hill Country. and there was a carload of illegal aliens that a police officer tried to pull over, and they took off like they do. You know it, and I know it. That's what they do, right? And it ended in Fredericksburg, Texas, which is 30 miles away. And there was big news around here. And there was a rollover, and the guy got out and charged at the deputy, and the deputy had to shoot him dead. And it's big news, and it just happened. And my comment is that I know it's big news here, and it should be, because that's something big. It's something that wow, they failed to yield and took off and killed people, and the deputy had to shoot the driver, and that's big news. But it happens every day in La Pryor, Texas. It happens every day in Del Rio, Texas. It happens every day in Uvalde. You know, this happens all the time. You know, and so but when it starts happening in Middle America, when it starts happening in you know the heart and soul of America, that's when it's going to be too late.
Yeah,
you know, they now these people are in here. They've had babies, and oh, how could we root them out? America is all they know. Can you hear the
oh yeah, just like the DACA, right? Alejandro Mayorkas is the one that invented DACA, and then eventually it came back to bite us in the ass, because now how do you know once they're here and that kind of thing. But here's the thing too, right? And the problem is that people think that once they make it past the border patrol and they get to their cities and towns, whatever, that they're free to do what they want. But isn't it a well-documented fact that the cartels or the trafficking organizations that got them to the U.S. border and got them across still controlled many of those lives? So in other words, the kids and the moms, dads, kids, whatever, they're not free to do what they want once they get to their destination, because once they get to their destination, there's people there entrenched and in place waiting to receive them, and then they go on to lives of indentured servitude for the most part.
Absolutely. That's what a lot of people think. It's like, okay, a lot of people know that it costs a lot of money to get smuggled.
Yes.
You know, the average is now 5,000. Remember, it used to be $700 or 600. Now it's about $5,000 a head. Do you think these illegal aliens have that kind of money? No, of course not. They're going to get smuggled, and they're going to come over here, and they're going to work pretty much for free until they pay off that debt, if they ever pay off that debt, you know.
Yes. And
so the criminal element that we have imported is in here, and they have a sophisticated network of collection, and this is money that is all flying south. So how are we benefiting this? Did you know to parole somebody in, there has to be significant interest, American interest, significant public interest to parole somebody in? Yet we're paroling in all these people. What is the significant interest that we gather from importing these people?
Well, we have paid, upwards. If the federal government says that it's $150 billion we've spent on illegal aliens, then you and I both know you can triple that amount easily, right? So we are spending. So where is the return for us, right? 66 to 70% now of every illegal that's released into this country is a public charge, and public charge used to be the number one reason why we would say no. Goodbye. You're not coming in here, because the moment you step on America, when one taxpayer dollar has to be directed to you to support you while you're in this country, you're not coming in.
Gil, how dare you quote the INA?
Oh, I'm so sorry. You're right.
A public charge is part of the Immigration and Nationality Act, and that is one again. That's a perfect example of law being ignored. If an illegal alien comes in here and goes to the emergency room, he's not going to pay for that. That is deportable, because we're paying. It's free service he's getting. That is a deportable offense. And so all these things. The fact that they're getting free phones, they officially become a taxpayer public charge.
Yes,
because that money Well, they say, oh, well, they're receiving that money from NGOs. Where do you think NGOs are getting their
Oh
money?
my gosh. And that's the newest one I've heard. So right now the left and Democrats are trying to say no. FEMA, not one penny of FEMA went to the illegal aliens. That was a separate fund from the catastrophe, right? So Alejandro Mayorkas comes out and tells all of America that we have no FEMA money for these disaster victims, right? We have no FEMA money for the whole season of hurricanes that's coming. But then the left and this administration comes up right behind saying, no, that's not what he meant. We got plenty of money. And, the money that we don't give money to illegals, we give them to NGOs.
Well, he was asked 3 months prior to this.
Yes, exactly.
And he admitted, well, he goes, with all this money that you're giving to illegal aliens from FEMA funds, what happens during hurricane season? He goes, what did he say, Gil? That we are
more than well prepared.
Yeah, we're tremendously prepared.
Tremendously prepared.
Yes. And now that there's no funds, and of course, it doesn't matter because it's red areas. It's red areas where Appalachian people and those people, man, my hat's off to them Appalachians, because they might as well be Hispanics and poor blacks, because Appalachia has always been ignored, and those are white folks. Those are poor white folks, but they know how to survive. That's the old country song that says,
country boy will survive.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And that's why you're not hearing all these but they're pretty much fending for themselves because the money is not there. Now, Gil, I'll ask you, how is that not misappropriation of funds? Why are handcuffs not going on Mayorkas right now for misappropriation of funds?
Well, that's the thing, because the first plank in the FEMA approach to disaster is make sure that it's equitable. That and we're gonna take care of the minorities first. We're gonna take care of the people of color first, and then everybody else, which of course insinuates that the whites have to be last because they have some kind of privilege in America.
Right.
Now, in the few moments we have left, I want to address a couple of things, and I'm putting my glasses on so I can read this and get it right and don't sound like an idiot. Have you heard of the latest DoD directive that was adjusted and is authorizing military deadly force on Americans who protest government actions? Have you heard about that one?
Yes. They're setting it in place, is what it sounds to me. Yeah. They're setting the infrastructure down for when the elections don't go their way, I guess. That's what I gathered from that. Yes, I did hear about that. But it's ironic that Kamala is accusing Trump of that.
Right.
And she just
weaponizing the government against people that protest against us, when that's being done right before our eyes, right? Literally before our eyes. That's being done to Trump. That's being done to many others, to January 6 people, you name it, and all that kind of thing. So I agree with you that they're setting up a way. And by the way, I mean, it was what's that jackass that's married that was trying to be president one day. He looks like Lurch, but I forget his name. But he was out there saying, right, that freedom of speech has to be curbed, has to be controlled. Kamala Harris is out there saying, we can't allow people like X and like social medias like X to allow anybody to say whatever they want. That has to be controlled. Hillary Clinton's out there saying, hey, all this has to be controlled. And so the ones that are all the threats to democracy are the ones that are trying to get it done, the censorship the worst, right? So
yeah, absolutely.
I see how. And not only that, but we have almost 5 million empty beds out there that are supposed to go. We're supposed to hold illegals until we figure out what their asylum claims, to figure out if they're legitimate. But we're not using those beds for that. What are we going to be using those beds for? I'm thinking insurgents and enemies of the state.
Okay, Gil, look, I'm going to go back to the INA because you know me, I always go back to the INA.
I love that you do that because it's rooted.
The rule of law and the Constitution is the INA. The fact that people are coming in, and did you know the term asylum seeker is a made-up term? You will not find that in the INA. No, in the INA you will find the term refugee. You know why they don't designate them as refugees? Because then we have a right to vet them, and so the term asylum seeker allows them to come in. Since it's a made-up term, they say, well, they're not designated as a refugee yet. That's why we're allowing them in without vetting them. Because even if, let's say there is a major catastrophic thing that happens in our contiguous country, which is Mexico, if something happened there, let's say famine, they couldn't feed their own people, they would be designated by the United Nations as refugees. That means that we could let them in, but under the true parole, where the United Nations is giving us money and they're helping out and helping set up tent cities, and even a refugee who truly has need, we have a right to vet them. In other words, if they have measles, they're excludable, even as a refugee. But under asylum seeker, all bets are off.
Oh, 100%. Wow.
So that is where they're violating the law. Asylum seeker does not exist under the INA. Look it up. The only thing you will find in there is refugee or asylum claims. So if when you claim something, if you're not designated as a refugee, you can't come in. But we're allowing them in under this made up term called asylum seeker. So meaning that later on they will be given the designation of refugee or not. But by that time,
it has been happening, right? Because now not only has Alejandro Mayorkas flooded our country with third world illegal immigrants from all over the world, turning this country effectively into a third world country, but he's making sure that the next administration, he's giving them status so that the next administration cannot deport them no matter what they do. And that's almost brilliant. It's almost brilliant.
Yes, under United Nations international law, a refugee who truly is fearful cannot be deported or sent back. But that's from a contiguous country. We're letting them in from everywhere.
Yes.
And and so why are we letting in Venezuelans when their contiguous country is Colombia, and they're giving them refugee status? Yes. So why are they coming over here? You know why? It's because this is an economic migration.
And they all say it, right? Every single one of them that gets interviewed says it. Now, another quick thing I want to talk to you about is recently, Ali Bradley also reported that in El Paso, they put out an intel report saying that the cartels have been given carte blanche to shoot at Border Patrol agents.
Yeah, now, I saw that report this morning.
Understanding when we worked the border, right? We knew that that's the last thing that they ever wanted to do, because we would bring a firestorm to the border.
If Quique Camarena,
is this happening now?
It's like Quique Camarena, that they learned from him that you don't mess with federal law enforcement because it's bad for business.
Yeah.
But however, let me just correct you on something. The cartels is not the most dangerous thing. It's Ali Bradley, right?
Ali Bradley is reporting, yeah.
She's the one that's more dangerous. Right, according to our intel source.
Yes, that's right. That's right. They actually put out a security notice because of Ali Bradley. Yes. So yes, technically she is the most dangerous thing in Texas.
Yes.
She's gonna love that.
Yeah. And so, but that's how things are. Things are turned around, and it talks about it in the Bible how wrong will be right and right will be wrong, and that's what's happening is like you mentioned before, we don't even know what a woman is anymore or what a man is, and they're blurring the lines even on the law, in immigration law in this case.
Amen. I'm just going through my list because I put a list here to kind of make sure because we could go all day with this. Another quick thing I really need to ask you, and this is right from the heart. Okay, this is important, so I want you to pay attention.
Okay.
Have you accepted Kamala Harris as your Lord and Savior yet?
I'm coming around.
Bro, praise. I don't know what you would praise because that's hilarious. But you know what's not so funny, and I'm not concerned about Kamala Harris's religious perspective, but it is telling that recently, just this morning, I put out a video on my social media where she was at this small little gathering where she's touting the benefits of abortion and how she wants to make sure everybody can abort, at any given time, whatever it is. And someone from the audience yelled, "Jesus is Lord." And did you know what she said to that? She said,
No.
"You're at the wrong. You're at the wrong. My God, I'm
Rally.
at the wrong. Yes, you're at the wrong rally." She said, "Go down to the one down, the smaller one down the street." Now, Trump's rally was at about 7,500 people. The group she had in there couldn't have been more than maybe 200 or 300. Yet she says that's you say Jesus is Lord at her rally. You're at the wrong rally.
Wow. Because Jesus is not Lord to them.
Oh no.
They're the most ungodly people, and again, Gil, I always bring it back to authority.
Yeah.
And if under the constitutional republic, our authority is the U.S. Constitution, which was founded on Judeo-Christian values. So
Well,
that answers your question of what you asked earlier, is like that it was I wouldn't use the word divinely because it was made by men, but it was godly principles were used to install.
I say, divinely inspired, just like I believe that the Bible, right, was guided and directed by divine, by the Holy Spirit intervention.
Right.
But yeah, but that's the thing, right? So, whatever else you can say, if you go back to history, the history of our country, the founding fathers will say that we got our sovereignty, that we're a sovereign nation, but a sovereign, how did we get our sovereignty? Who gave us our sovereignty?
That's right, Gil. They're inalienable rights. What are those inalienable rights that come from God alone?
Yes, from God, one nation under God. And I think that's the part that, like I said, I don't expect or impose my faith on anybody else, but at the same time, there are lines being drawn here when you have people that are literally trying to, maim and just surgically alter our babies before they can even think. They don't want them, they say, well, if you get a tattoo, you got to be of age to be able to know that to be able to make that decision. But if a little boy wants to be a little girl and he doesn't even know, they go, because all of us, I played with dolls when I was a kid, and look how I turned out. Well, never mind.
Well, yeah, that's a bad example.
That's not good. Never mind that, but you know what I mean. I mean, they're willing to all these things that they're championing that are, I mean, I don't honestly. I mean, don't those people have to eat and buy groceries and go to get medicine? And there isn't an institution in this country right now that isn't almost completely altered or demolished based on their policies.
Well, Gil, okay, if somebody that is agnostic is listening or isn't a godly person, I understand, I get that. But look, life. Let's go to the Constitution, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Who does that come from? Even if you don't want to acknowledge a higher being, does it come from the government? Your life, the fact that you get to breathe in and out, does that come from the government? The liberty, your liberties, the right, and also your right to pursue happiness. Does that come from the government? Is that what you want as the one deciding what is? These
other human beings. Yeah,
exactly. So life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness comes from God and God alone. And so, and that authority, He is the authority head. He is the authority of all authorities. And then if you want to keep it government wise, it's the Constitution. The Constitution. And the government has to abide by that Constitution as they govern you. If they transgress it, or if they forego it, now they're in trouble, because that authority, which is we the people, have a problem with that.
So we can say basically that even if you don't believe in a divine being, a deity, God, right, we still can admit or can accept that those ideals, life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness, right, all those things transcend human, it goes
human limitations.
Human limitations, yes, exactly, because otherwise, if we're at the mercy of, what's, best for the other guy, what's best for you, well, everybody has a complete different definition of what that is.
Exactly, because look, even liberals. Okay, if the government is in charge and they have a right to determine life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, what if the government decided homosexuality, we're going to kill every homosexual? Then are you, because you put all your eggs in that basket? So remember, the government is bound by the U.S. Constitution, and they should be, whether you're a liberal or conservative, you should thank God for that.
Yeah. To that.
Right?
Oh, that's I don't think we can top that today. That was brilliant, Joel. Well, Joel, you are a Renaissance man. You're a swashbuckler. You are the top contributor to our Border Watch Daily page. I share a lot of news and information and tidbits in there, but you go in there and you write these articles from the heart. You know the U.S. Constitution. You know immigration law. Everybody that I have recommended you to, from J.J. Carroll to Daniel McGurr to Kimberly Yater, all these people, they're going to be grateful to me forever because I introduced you to them. So for that, I'm happy with that, right? And but you are blessed, Joel, and you are. So many other people need to be able to hear what you have to say. And I recommend that everybody listening to this podcast also go out and get your book and read it carefully. And like you said, we are not against immigration. We're against illegal immigration. We are not against people coming to this country to find a better life, but we want the people to come to this country to love this country, to love America, to want to be American. I don't think that's too much to ask, to contribute to our country. And while we can say that we have had immigrants from the beginning of this country, 240 years, that have come and made this nation great, all of us, to an extent, are immigrants for the most part. But to just open the floodgates and allow anybody at any time to step in is a nightmare that only agents, the only people that work the border, only people that work that are supposed to protect the border understand the nightmares that walk in it, right? And America depends on us, or depended on us when we were working it, to make. They didn't have to lose sleep at night wondering what was coming across that border, right? But now we absolutely have no idea what we've already allowed into this country.
Exactly. Even liberals, when they want to talk about lax immigration, talk about Lady Liberty never turned her face. And well, Lady Liberty is literally Ellis Island, right? That's where all these people were coming in, and they were vetted very carefully. Were they not, Gil? Were they not?
100%, 100%. And the final thing I'll mention, and we'll close it for today, maybe come back another day soon, is the idea that Jesus, right, that God, Jesus would want us to open up completely and allow everybody to come in just complete. And it's like, well, the old covenant in the new in the Bible did allow for people who wanted to join Israel, and as long as they worshiped God, the God of Israel, like Israel did, God said to them, you're going to treat these people not like strangers or aliens. They're going to be among you, and they're going to be treated the same way. You're not going to treat them differently. But if they don't do that, then they are foreigners and strangers and aliens, right? And so, even Jerusalem had walls that God said he wanted built, then they still had to come in through a door, right? They still had to come in through a door. And so to use that as the all in all the oxen free is not a biblical concept.
Well, you just came back from Rome. Did you see the Vatican City by any chance? Because were you able to get in through their walls?
No. There was a long line of security waiting for us before we could even step in.
That's right. So, I don't want to tick off your Catholic listeners, but the Pope likes to talk about immigration, and many of his charities are helping with this illegal immigration movement.
Yes.
But we can start by allowing a lot of people into that Vatican City, and he can share the wealth.
Yeah. And what would that, if you were just to open the doors, not do any security nor anything else, how long do you think Vatican City would stay in the condition it's in right now?
Exactly. So that's all we're asking, Gil.
Yes, that's all we're asking. All right, Joel. thank you. I appreciate you. Keep up the good work, and we cannot drop the ball right now. And anybody out there that's believing that that Trump's ahead, and he may be ahead, that Trump's gotten the support of all the minorities. Maybe he has. I don't know, but right now is not the time to just sit back and go, hey man, we got this. I'm so sick of, if I hear someone else talk about a red wave or the sleeping giant,
Yeah,
right,
yeah.
whatever, I
No.
will throat punch them.
No, we got to keep going until we cross that finish line. And even then, they probably got a lot of legal moves for Trump. But
It's going to be an uphill battle the whole way. So, but we
that's
got to be
right.
prepared for that, because it doesn't. Once Trump gets elected, that doesn't end the fight. I think it actually just starts it. So we're not going to all rest easy and be able to catch our breath when Trump gets elected. I think we're going to end up having to double and triple down and get out there and fight.
Yeah. And this podcast, this meeting with you, Gil, has been a shot in the arm, like you mentioned. So I appreciate you so much, man, because I get discouraged too. But man, we got to keep fighting, man. We as you know, Gil, we have a small network of patriots that are fighting this fight, and we're gonna keep on. We're gonna keep on keeping on, man.
Amen, brother. Well, take care. God bless, and we'll talk soon. And man, just keep funneling those articles into borderwatchdaily.com, okay?
You know it.
All right, brother. Take care,
God
man.
bless, man.
God bless.